Egypt requires a lot of you. It was sort of felt like riding a very large dragon. So it's the air, it's the people, it's all sort of like accosting to the nervous system.
Everything is just really intense.
I felt Isis's wings around us. Like I could feel her guiding us, supporting us. Egypt is its very specific flavor of medicine. It is like ayahuasca mixed with DMT times a lot. Each temple really is its own medicine ceremony. This is a different episode of Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? My dear friend Kate Northrup interviews me about our recent pilgrimage to Egypt, which was an initiation that stretched me beyond anything I've ever experienced. We talk about some of the wild stories that unfolded at these temples. We talk about embodied wisdom and what happens when you're willing to let ancient lands work on you. We were actually doing the practices of what I believe why these temples were built. We did it in a way that was respectful. There was a lot of divine protection around that. And then the lights turned on the pyramids, which doesn't happen every night. And that felt like actual magic. I've had this vision and I've had this dream for so long. But it was like, there's something about the pyramids and you need to bring people there and you need to hold a vision for peace and you need to hold a vision for what heaven on earth looks like and you need to pour pleasure over it. All right, sweet friends. I know I say a lot that today is going to be a really special episode of Why Isn't Everyone Doing It? But today I effing mean it for a few reasons. One, I'm not the host. And two, the host is extraordinary. And three, we're talking about one of the most exquisite, most profound, most powerful, most challenging experiences of my entire life. And I would like to welcome the extraordinary Kate Northrup, not only to the show, but I'm actually going to be handing her the microphone. We're going to be switching places and she is going to interview me because Kate was actually a guest on this trip. So some of you might know we just took a pilgrimage to Egypt. It was our first real Ziva pilgrimage. And I'm just going to set the stage and then I'm going to hand it over to Kate, which, by the way, if you don't know Kate Northrup's work, she is a full-blown genius. She is an author. She has multiple best-selling books. She has started a whole revolution about helping historically women regulate their nervous systems around money and abundance. But something shifted for her on the trip, which we can talk about in a bit, about shifting the way that she works with people moving forward. She is one of the most brilliant people I know. She's also the person that I call personally when I get spun out around finances. And what's beautiful about Kate's work is that she kind of like, it's a little bit of a ruse. It's like she kind of pretends like she's helping you with your money, but actually she's helping you with like your whole spirit, psyche, and nervous system regulation, which I am here for. I am here for a Trojan horse healer. So here's the context. We just got back like literally days ago from an extraordinary pilgrimage. I'll share like my inspiration in going. And then I really appreciate you, Kate, like interviewing me because I feel like there's so many stories to tell and I don't think I could do it in a solo podcast. But the prayer for me, the intention in going to Egypt was very much to say thank you to Isis, Isis being the Egyptian goddess of motherhood and fertility and magic and sex. And the first time I've ever really anthropomorphized in relationship with the divine was through Isis. So I just wanted to go and start there, start in Aswan, start at the temple to say thank you, to bring offerings to her, and then to listen. And another prayer that I had was for us to go to the pyramids and do a ceremony there with a small-ish group of people and just see what it would feel like to hold a large-scale transmission there, to hold a large-scale activation. The vision I've been having is 13,000 people holding a vision for the planet in coherence with each other, ushering themselves into very high states of consciousness, and then using the pyramids and the antenna as amplifiers for those prayers. And we did both of those things. And hilariously, in hindsight, looking back on this 10-day pilgrimage and everything that has transpired since, those two things are almost like I almost forgot about them because, of course, the best laid plans are, what is that quote? Like, the best laid plans.
I don't know.
But
it's, yeah.
I think what I love is the Eisenhower quote, which is planning is indispensable. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So it's like the best laid plans, certainly the medicine that we got was so much bigger and more profound than the medicine that we thought we were going to get. So with that, I'm gonna flip the tables. I'm gonna hand the microphone. I don't even know. We both have microphones, but I'm handing the interview mic to you. And yeah, thank you for coming on, and thank you for helping us both to share the lessons and to share the magic. And I think both of our prayers here is for people to receive the transmission and to receive the medicine at the level that is helpful for them, so that they receive exactly the medicine that might initiate them into their next level of their journey, without it being too much or too little.
Yes. So first of all, I just want to say thanks for inviting me on the trip. It was, I think, one of the greatest gifts I have ever received in my life. And it was such an honor to be there as a participant, and then also to be here on the other side as a witness, as a confidant, as someone to help you digest and integrate, as the leader of that wild experience.
Yeah. Everyone's like, how is Egypt? And like, it was sort of felt like riding a very large dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I've been describing it was like, I didn't like it, but I loved so much of it. And I wouldn't want to turn around and go back right now, but it completely changed my life. And I am so grateful that I got to have that experience. And it was ecstasy in many ways.
Oof.
And required a lot of me.
Yeah. Egypt requires a lot of you.
And I know more? It required a lot of you.
I mean, I have a very large capacity, and this one, I learned I have new capacity. It has stretched me, which is why you do these things. You do it to increase your capacity, and it is currently doing that.
Yes. 100%.
I'm curious, and I'm not going to go into interview mode, but I'm curious. You said it changed your life. Can you say yet that, like, from what to what? How have things shifted for you?
I feel like if I say that part right up front, it might,
spoiler alert,
be not as relevant. So I want to say, and I'm going to put a pin in it, and we'll see where it weaves in. And if it doesn't, I'll make sure to say it at the end.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay. So Emily, how did Isis show up in your life to begin with?
So it was my birthday party in 2021. My sweet, amazing ex-partner, Adam, threw me a birthday party, and it was at a friend's farmhouse. He brought 24 of our best friends, and it was a surprise. Like, I knew something was happening, but all of the details were a surprise. And he interviewed every single person. They all had to bring a ceremony. They all had to basically write a spell. This man, he had hand calligraphied each spell into a custom bound leather spell book. He made me a magic wand. He basically built an Isis temple, Isis tapestry, Isis altar. I had no relationship with Isis. I barely knew that she was an Egyptian goddess. And then this birthday party, because my friends are my friends, and they're all world-class priestesses and witches and wizards, they all brought their A game. And so it was 3.5 hour off-Broadway level production ceremony where I was receiving activation after activation, including from Layla and Regina Thomashower and Radha Agrawal. And by the end of it, what started as spiritual theater was not spiritual theater. It was a full-blown initiation for all of us. The timeline of every single person's lives changed that weekend. And ever since then, I've basically just had Isis on speed dial. She's just here. She's just there. Every ceremony I do, whether I call her in or not, she works through me. Every breath work, people are like, I went to Egypt. I saw you in Egypt. Isis was with me. And so I've just been this very happy to be one of her fingers ever since.
Amazing. You've spent 18 years studying and teaching the Vedas, which is an ancient Indian tradition. And your work since 2021 has begun to expand into a different expression, or an expanded expression, which I'm sure we'll get to a little bit more about where that's going later. So just, stay until the end to find out.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. But one of the things that happened is when you were setting us up for this pilgrimage, first of all, you were very clear, this is not a vacation. Right. So if you're expecting a vacation on the Nile, this is not that. And a pilgrimage stretches you and expands you. Of course, you didn't know what that meant for you as you were saying these words, but that was happening for all of us. And the ritual, the ceremony really began before we set foot on the flight. And there was an interview you did with this amazing woman, Isis Indria, which has already come out on the podcast by this time, possibly. We'll see. And she was sharing about Isis and her twin sister, Nephthys. And I remember exactly where I was. I was like going up a very steep hill in my neighborhood listening. And then I voice memoed you about this because there was such a big piece around the invisible and the visible and the unmanifest and the manifest that planted a seed before we even started the ceremony. Can you talk about your relationship with Isis and how it expanded in that conversation with Isis Indria, who's a real human? She's not the goddess Isis, but she is named after her. So sorry for the confusion.
It's tricky.
Like what happened?
Isis and goddess Isis.
Correct. Human Isis. Emily was having a conversation with her. She's a profound human. And there was this piece around shadow, the darkness, the unseen. Can you talk about that just to set us up for what then transpired on the trip itself?
Yeah. So I think the interesting backstory is that this past year, much of it I spent in what I called a death portal, working through my own shadow in a way that I never really have done before. And so then at the moment that Isis Indria, the human, talked about Isis's twin sister, Nephthys, who's the goddess of the dark, the goddess of the shadow, the goddess of the unmanifest. I was like, wait, what? Isis has a twin sister, first of all. How did I not know that? And second of all, like, it makes so much sense that of course, if you want to have a goddess of sex and magic and creation and fertility and birthing from nothingness into somethingness, you have to have the goddess of the void and the still and the dark and the unmanifest. And something about her just saying that, I was actually in the middle of like an offsite for Ziva and just reworking like, what is our North Star and how can we bring the best medicine to the planet right now? And something just clicked where it was like, oh, wait, I've actually only ever been teaching one thing. And that is, in order to create something, you must first go into nothing. Like our slogan at Ziva, even when it was just meditation, was like grounded in being, perform action. Grounded in capital B, being, perform action. And what I would say is that like when you're starting your career as a meditator, it's a good reminder that before you take action, first ground in being. And then a couple years down the track, when you're so in love with the unmanifest and you're like, oh, I'll just wallow around in my consciousness all day. It's like, hey, grounded in being, perform action. Like now take that to the world. And so knowing that there was Isis and Nephthys preparing for this pilgrimage, it really reminded me that like, wait, I don't have to have like two different products. It doesn't have to be Ziva meditation and Ziva magic. That actually, in order to manifest anything, you need to have legitimate tools to quote unquote meditate. And that for me means ushering yourself into a verifiable fourth state of consciousness, actively transcending waking state or waking, dreaming, or sleeping, and moving into that realm of pure beingness. And then the night before we started the pilgrimage, the facilitators and I did a ceremony. And for the first time ever, I actually had a visceral experience of what it feels like to simultaneously go all the way down, like not just as one particle, not just as one atom, not just as one quark or one leptoquark, but like to be inside of the quantum experience first person, and then watching as that de-excitation, watching as that coherence elaborated inside of my own body, how it simultaneously unlocked these higher and higher realms of consciousness. And that's what manifestation is, right? It's you timeline jumping. It's you accessing your own divinity, your own creativity, your own power. And then from that plane, you have optionality, you have choice. Oh, this is what I would love. Let me put my attention on this. And then I bring that from the unmanifest, Nephthys, into the manifest, Isis. And so it was like just knowing that Nephthys existed shifted my consciousness, which that I think is the power of these archetypes. It's the power of these temples, is just knowing that this iconography exists, seeing the divinity in these different fractals shifts us because it wakes up something inside of ourselves. But then having that visceral experience of the simultaneity, that as you de-excite and as you create coherence, you unlock these higher planes of existence. And from there you get to create, was very, very powerful. To have a first person sort of like God consciousness like experience of something that I had understood intellectually but never felt viscerally was in and of itself life-changing.
And then you did that ceremony and you'd been asking this particular question of yourself. Do you remember the question? This is such a terrible leading question.
So the question was, okay, I've been studying the Vedas for 16, 18 years, and I'm obsessed with Egypt now for the past 5. Like, how are these two lineages meant to weave together? And specifically, what's my role to play in synthesizing these two lineages? And that didn't come online until I understood that Yeshua, aka Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, aka the feminine form of Christ consciousness, that these two humans in the 3 years that they're missing from the Bible, supposedly, and feel free to fact check me on this because I ain't nobody's historian or religious expert.
We'll ask Megan Watterson.
Okay, we'll ask Megan Watterson, but so theoretically, supposedly, Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, there's 3 years where they're missing from the Bible. And supposedly they were in Egypt and India. And that is interesting to me, right? Like, why did they go to India? Why did they go to Egypt? Why those particular, there's infinite ancient knowledge. There's infinite indigenous wisdom around the planet. Why those two locations? And then what about that synthesis helped to usher them into the state of consciousness that they were in, that between that and their divine union of the masculine and feminine shifted consciousness in a way that we are still talking about thousands of years later. So that's what I've been in inquiry of, and where it was very much a question I was asking going into Egypt is, what about these 16 years of me studying this lineage from India wants to be woven with Egypt? And then again, that same ceremony the night before. So right after I have this like God consciousness of like, as within, so without, as above, so below, I open my eyes and I see this woman who's amazing, by the way, who's like married to an Egyptian diplomat, writing 5 books, and is an initiated priestess in the Isis lineage and has been like holding the beacon in Egypt for 20 years. She has an Isis temple in her house. I open my eyes and she's like dancing and like ushering me across the place. So I go into her room, look out the window, and there's a Shakti temple next door. And there's a full-blown Shiva Shakti ceremony happening, which I guess is a wedding, but like everyone's in Indian garb, there's Indian music. And I'm like, well, this is night 1. Like, thanks, nature. It feels a little on the nose, but I'll take it. And just when I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. This is so amazing. And just as I'm like climaxing in my enthusiasm, fireworks go off above the wedding. I was like, okay, it's going to be a great ride. It's going to be a great pilgrimage.
Absolutely incredible. So there was this infrastructure for you around really like your work in the world, how you are meant to walk, how you're meant to lead, and the expansion of that work. And you've been at this really beautiful inflection point. And so it was so amazing to witness the literal on the nose, and then also the more subtle energies move you on this trip. And this is what we are signing up for when we go through initiatory, whether it's a trip, whether it's a training, whether it's a journey of any kind. Like, we are signing up to be rearranged. And sometimes that rearrangement really does feel like bliss. And sometimes it doesn't. And so I'm curious, like we're going to pull some of the threads of the story, but I don't want to be overly linear about this because it's really not. All time and space is now. Mm-hmm. What surprised you about the trip in terms of what wasn't bliss?
Well, I will say that like the first 4, maybe even 5 days was just like, wow, like this is it. Like I felt like little Emily was out to play. I felt so held. I was like, how can it really be this easy? Can it really be this fun? Oh my God, I've healed my relationship with the masculine. I've got the Queen's Guard, all the temple guards. It just felt like Egypt was rolling out the red carpet for us. If I felt Isis's wings around us, like I could feel her guiding us, supporting us, like, and all of that is true. Like just really exquisite. And then, at some point I like to share about like how held I felt by the masculine.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I think it would be helpful because what you just described is so yummy. And I can feel people listening, wondering like, what did you do to set yourself up for that? So do you mind sharing some of the layers of support you had prepared and some of the work you'd been doing going into this to show up in that frequency?
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I like it when my energy, my drive, and my radiance are there without stimulants or guesswork. And that is why I love Upgraded Tea by Upgraded Formulas. It's made with only patented, clinically studied ingredients, and they even ran their own clinical trial on the full formulation to prove its effectiveness. It supports healthy testosterone and hormone balance naturally for both men and women so that you can feel clear, strong, and more alive again. So go to upgradedformulas.com/Emily and you can use the code Emily for 20% off. But I'd say like my number one assignment spiritually for the last 2 years has been, I guess maybe 1.5 years, 2 years, like since my last breakup has been like, girl, like you need to heal your relationship with the masculine. Like you need to just full-time daddy issue, like whatever it takes. Like nature's showing you that you still don't trust, like you still will not let yourself feel fully held. And it's showing up in so many ways that just aren't worth it. And also you have a son, like giddy up, And so it's been a lot of IFS work, which is internal family systems, like one ayahuasca journey. I've only done ayahuasca twice, but one of them was like very much directed into my father and really like doing the hard work inside of my team. My team is currently all women, which is another thing where it's like, okay, I'm in a women's mastermind. I have all female employees. I have like mostly female friends. I have no men in my life. I'm single. I don't have a brother. My father's passed away. My uncles have all passed away. My grandfathers all have passed away. And that's like indicative of my lineage. My mom had 9 sisters and her father passed away. So they had one boy and he died. So like the women in my family are like the breadwinners. They are the primary caretakers and the men just die. So like that's the imprint in my lineage. And I don't want that. Like I see these amazing women, my aunt, my mother, my grandmother, these like amazing women like hold down the fort at home and hold down the fort at work. And I want to celebrate them, right? Like I want to transcend and include, where like include their mastery, include their strength, include the fucking privilege that they have afforded me of having the life that I have, and include feeling held. Like I want to include like that I deserve love and I deserve to feel held by the masculine. I deserve divine partnership and I deserve to be held by my team and to trust it and to really like mine out, like where do I not trust that? Where do I go into vigilance? Where do I go into like, well, I'll just do it all myself. And that has been really fascinating. Also, maybe this is TMI, but it is, I think my show is already
say whatever you want.
You're listening to the show, you get that it's TMI. But a couple weeks before, and I think you might have been on this call, we're in a mastermind together with all women. And I was sharing that I have a rose quartz wand. I have like a rose quartz dildo essentially that is amazing and so beautiful. And every time I use it, people are like, you're glowing. And it exploded. It cracked like a few weeks before the retreat. And I came in all proud of that, like to our women's group being like, I'm taking this as a sign that I'm ready for a man and that my rose quartz wand is ready to be replaced by an actual human man. And then our friend Alyssa was like, hey, Emily, how's your relationship with the masculine going? And I was like, it's great. It's good. It's fine. I think, I don't know. So, I mean, and so both things are true. Like I've made an extraordinary amount of progress and there's more to go. And the Cliff's Notes that I'm going to say out loud, which I think might be helpful for people, is that what I thought was me healing my relationship with the masculine actually ended up being me recognizing where I had like wounded feminine, which I think are sneaky. You know what I mean?
Say more about Like a practical example of that?
Yeah. Like sometimes I had mistook my own masculine energy of like, oh, I'm too in my masculine, or I had judged myself for being too in execution mode or too much in holding. That actually, that's not for me healthy masculine. That's wounded feminine, which is like vigilance. I'll do it all myself. I can do it better than you. And that's like this martyr, overgiving mother energy. It's like the not healthy version that we have of the mother. And so like, okay, so cut to, all right, Emily, you want to go on an ISIS initiation in Egypt? You think you're going to go on a divine mother initiation and not face this wound, not face this medicine?
Yeah.
And so, just when you think, oh, I'm healing my relationship with the masculine, which, just the cliff notes there is that when I landed, it was like, I get off the plane and this man named Mohammed is there with a visa for me. I'm FaceTiming with this new love interest as I'm going through security. I get to the car and a man has like surprised me. He gets out of the car. He surprised me in the parking lot so we can ride 45 minutes together. Then another friend has like gotten me flowers and a ring light and dinner to set me up for the Ziva Magic closing ceremony. And then we get on the boat, which is a Mary Magdalene temple that this man has built. And he bursts into tears and is like, I built this for you. Like, thank you for coming. And then like the man who's running the staff is like giving me neck massages, which is like not culturally appropriate and it's not sexual. He's just like pouring into me because my neck is out. And like men on the street giving me like chef's kisses, like as if I'm their best friend. And these guards who are normally hustling for money are like giving me blessings from the depths of their soul. And like, it just is like, whoa, if as within, so below, like, or whatever, like if reality is an out picturing of the inner work, like, good job, girl, high five, you've done it.
Yeah. And you had also called in these layers of support to men.
Yes. Which was
to help you hold you as you held the retreat.
Yes.
Practically speaking.
Yeah. So I got the hit this summer and my friend Buja, I was like crying and I was like, please come on this retreat with me. Like, I need you. And I can tell, I've said that approximately one time in my life to a man. I need you to come on this retreat. I need you to hold me so that I can hold this container. There's something big that wants to come through and I can't do it by myself. And he said, yes, thank you, Buja. And then I met this amazing couple, Sophia and Haru, and I like, there was like a lot of synergy. They live in Egypt. They guide pilgrimages to Egypt. They were friends with Buja. And I was like, oh, it would be really amazing if you guys wanted to come too. And so they did. And so now I had like this amazing woman, Helena, who was officially the other facilitator. And then I had these 3 other guides join. And sometimes it would be Haru and Buja on either side of me, like full Queen's Guard. And then we had Karim, our Egyptian guide, like working all
phenomenal.
of the like phenomenal, dealing with the Minister of Antiquities, dealing with all the logistics and the greasing the wheels and the tipping. And it just felt like there was this masculine like knights out, like just paving the way for the priestesses to come through. And that felt really, really, really good.
Yeah. And it was. Like, it really was. And not to too much foreshadow, but like, even though the energy shifted, I want to name that doesn't mean that you hadn't done the work. Like, it doesn't erase what it was and how much growth, I think, and development that showed that you created that not only for you, but then that experience for everyone on the retreat. Because when one is resourced, when the leader is resourced, everyone is receiving that by osmosis. And I know it changed people. And then I'm curious, before there's so many places we can go, but I am curious, are there any specific moments that you'd like to highlight from those first 4 days that felt particularly poignant or sweet, or it landed something for you about your work or your life?
Yeah, like there was moments where like other facilitators would come and because I'm like, well, we're gonna do a pleasure practice near the pyramids and we're gonna plant these prayers, and so we're sort of negotiating, okay, well, what temples do we have private access at, and where can we do pleasure practices in this Muslim country with 40 Westerners, and there was a lot of like fear coming at me, and I was just like, it wasn't proving, I wasn't fighting. It was just this like deep knowingness that I could feel Isis's wings around us. And I was like, we are so held, we are so protected. And we kept going into these temples and people being like, I cannot believe what we got away with. Like, I cannot believe. And by like got away with, I don't mean that we were doing anything wrong. It's that we were actually doing the practices of what I believe why these temples were built. And just because there's so much like corruption and fear and like misogyny and repression and actually like repression of the magic, that now it's like this, it's like if you even close your eyes to meditate, they come over to you with guns. You can't bring in singing bowls. You can't touch a hieroglyph. You can't even, if you just stand still and close your eyes, but tune into spirit, they can feel it and they come over and they move you right away. So I don't mean that like we were there, like, fuck you, like proving anything. But when I say we got away with something, it's like we were honoring the actual temples and the actual transmissions. And it felt like there was a lot of divine protection around that. And that felt really special. And it's sometimes going down the Nile, I felt like we could feel Isis's wings around us. Some of my favorite moments was like everyone brought water from sacred spots around their land and we combined it into one singing bowl and then offered it to the Nile. And that was so exquisite to just hear everyone's story of what the water meant to them. And even like doing, like we did Ziva magic at sunset, you know, on the Nile while the sun is setting on the roof of the boat. And even just simple moments like that, I just felt like, wow, what a gift. And there was a moment at the Hathor temple that was really exquisite. I mean, the Cliffs Notes is that one of my prayers going in is that I wanted a Hathor initiation. And my friend who was there, another facilitator, feels like she really is sort of like the living embodiment of Hathor. Like if people say that I am like playing a role of Isis, she's playing a role of Hathor. And there was a moment that we had privately in this Hathor chamber where she was playing the singing bowls. And we had just done like a mini pleasure activation in this Isis temple. Sorry, there's an Isis chapel inside of the Hathor temple complex. So the Dandara is the Hathor temple complex. And there's a small Isis chamber. And this is when we had like our code word. And there was like 20 of us, I think. And we had like 3 layers of protection. And we started people just through breath and energy and movement, but we started to build the life force. We started to build the creation energy. And we were sending it up through this pyramid in the middle. And we had a code word, which was bananas. And like as the guards started to come, we were like, bananas. And we like broke the energy, but it was so fun. And like seeing you like just giggling and so lit up and seeing people in their erotic
that was
expression.
That was the craziest thing. That was one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me.
Say more.
Because I was
experience of that.
Just like it appeared possibly that I was just giggling. What was actually happening is that I was having a full body energy giggle-gasm. Like, because sometimes when I have an orgasm, I giggle uncontrollably. And there's just a funny story about that. The first time it ever happened, I was with this man from my past and I didn't know what was going on. And he goes, well, I'm a funny fuck.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so that just to speak to prior to this experience, I really was a little like, you don't really need to go to sacred spaces to have particular experiences. I was like, you can have whatever experience wherever, which I still believe. And also, just to speak to the frequency of sacred sites, that in a group of like 20 or 30 people with very little instruction, I mean, you hold really incredible space. So just your presence and the way you hold ceremony is quite profound. And it allows people to, I think, go into experiences effectively and potently. And also, it's not like there was like a lot going on to have that experience of a full body, like energy orgasm that I was not doing anything about was wild. So anyway, and then so Emily starts yelling bananas.
This feels important because it's like, I don't know why. My mind does not understand why I have gotten this dharmic assignment and this dharmic imperative of like, hey girl, hey, like go to the sacred sites, do activations there, document it. There is both like energy to be given and offered to these temples and also codes to be received and potentially like blueprints for the new earth that need to come into reality. You know, the hiding in plain sight, wait, humans actually already were living in this utopian potentiality. And actually the creation of the temples, the fact that we even had the state of consciousness or the technology to build them is evidence of the fact that we were living something different than what we're living now.
And that human evolution is non-linear. The illusion that we're the most advanced version of our species is so obvious when you go to these temples and these sacred sites in Egypt. There's clearly something cyclical going on, and we are not at the zenith of humanity's evolution in this particular moment. There's so much we don't understand. And it's not like, oh, back in the day, there were these rudimentary technologies and, it was not that.
Not that. And I think that our ego and our mind and our masculine thinking wants to so believe that we're just ascending all the time. Like that me of like, I did it. I healed my daddy issues. I'm done now. I graduated. And then like catapulted down into the goo, the caterpillar imaginal cell goo of like, guess what, girl, you got a whole new level of initiation coming. Like, I think that's also true of society, right? Like we're in this like goo where like the unsustainable systems, the things that are ready to evolve are being dissolved into the imaginal cell goo right now. Like societally with money and AI and healthcare and government, like all of it is like going into the imaginal goo. And from that, I think we get to decide like what butterfly do we want to evolve into? Do we want to go from the water nymph to the dragonfly? Do we want to go from the caterpillar to the butterfly? But I think we can all agree that like we're not up and to the right anymore, or up and to the left, or whatever the 45-degree analogy is. Like it's not linear. It is cyclical. And is what I think the code that is coming through for me and so many others is like, there is wisdom from our ancient ancestors. There is wisdom in these temples. There is wisdom in this land. We don't even have to figure it out ourselves. We just need to go there and listen and remember so that we can find these utopian blueprints, so that we can find the map to create planetary paradise or heaven on earth. And that was very much the prayer that I had, was like, how do we create the frequency of heaven on earth? And sometimes when you have that prayer, then you have to crawl on your knees through glass, through hell to get there.
Because bliss is your birthright, and we can't live one side of the spectrum, as two of our beautiful attendees said, you got to play all the keys on the keyboard. So, because everything is everything, right? And you went with this question, like, what can we learn about creating heaven on earth? And you talked about, for the participants, that when in ceremony where we're asking those bigger questions about evolution and expansion, that which is not aligned with our vision, with the visualized portion of your embodied manifestation practice, that which is not aligned with your true desire will be highlighted for deletion. And I'm curious if you can speak a little bit more to knowing that at the time of this recording, like we are still in the ceremony. And so, pick and choose whatever you want to share. But for you, what was, and I'm happy to also answer this question if you want, but I want to know, like, for you, what has been highlighted for deletion? Because what I'm noticing, and what I notice with people all the time, because I'm hanging out in like spiritual personal development constantly, is that as soon as something feels uncomfortable, our sweet ego wants to say, oh, it's not working, or this is wrong. Like as soon as we feel discomfort, it's like, this is wrong. Someone's either this is wrong, I'm wrong, or someone else is wrong. Versus, oh, in order for something to leave our experience, it needs to be experienced so it can be alchemized, right? So can you talk about highlighting for deletion in your own experience on this trip?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, which feels so brilliant, is when any of us are feeling discomfort, like the immediate reaction for most of us is like, there's a problem, I need to fix it. Or I feel pain, I'm a victim, there's a perpetrator, I need to defend or fight. And I think one of our amazing
I'm wrong.
or I did something wrong, right? And one of our amazing participants just posted this triangle, right, where it's like victim, perpetrator, hero, victim, perpetrator, hero, and the idea is not to be in one of the three, but to actually transcend the triangle altogether. And I think that it's funny because I first saw it happening in the field, and I first saw it happening of like, oh, people are in pain. There's participants having massive initiations, jumping many layers of the video game all at once. Lots of trauma being highlighted, lots of things being highlighted for deletion, and it's uncomfortable and terrifying. And they're away from home. Oh yeah. And most of us had like diarrhea and vomiting for multiple days. So it was like literally a 10-day ayahuasca ceremony. Of which I somehow missed that part of the memo that like everyone was going to get sick. And so I started seeing a lot of it being pointed at me, which is part of what you sign up for as a retreat facilitator, right? You're like, I'm going to hold this, I'm going to hold the projections, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to love you through it. And what I had said going into this is like, hey, I really want to go on this pilgrimage. I'm bringing in the smartest, awesomest people I know to hold it. Who wants to come with me? And I went on the pilgrimage too. And I was trying to do both. I was trying to be on the pilgrimage and hold the container simultaneously. And that's not, you can't really do both. I mean, inevitably, of course, everyone's going to get their medicine, but this is something I'm learning that I could have done differently, of like either sit fully in the seat of like I'm holding the container, or sit fully in the seat of being a participant. But it's not great to try and do both.
Right. Because when you try to drive with your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time, it really fries your transmission.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't like surrender and drive the ship simultaneously.
You actually can't. Just to ground it for folks who have not traveled to Egypt, Egypt is different than the United States. That is obvious. However, like just to understand that the concept of time is different. The infrastructure is different. Public spaces are really different. The air, the water, like everything is just really intense.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like, oh, I was just in a ceremony and I'm going to the Nashville airport. Like, yeah, that would be jarring, but like this is that like X 100.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. And then also just to get people in, it's like each temple really is its own medicine ceremony. Now, we were not doing medicine on this retreat. I sometimes do serve medicine on my retreats. We did not serve any medicine in this retreat. And it was
Thank goodness you were not doing that on this retreat. That would have been too much.
No, too much. I saw someone else, some friend of mine being like, we're doing mushrooms on the Nile. And I was like, no, like everything.
There was plenty of medicine in the ether.
Because it's like each temple is its own transmission. Each temple is carrying such big, profound, and I do think that we really worked with the temples very well. Like I feel really proud of the way that we listened and tuned in and asked for permission and received the medicine and allowed ourselves to empty out and to become the tuning forks to receive one song and then give it to the next temple. Like I think we did such a beautiful job of that. And I feel really proud of the work that we did, which I think was very much like our intention and our training of what we received with Matthias and Robert Edward Grant and Isis Andrea. And so that all feels really beautiful. And we were very much mid-ceremony. We're like day 6 of a 10-day ceremony. And it's like, all right, everybody, pack up all your stuff. We're going to the airport. And yes, it's the air, it's the people, it's the like, it's all sort of like accosting to the nervous system. I start to go into like hypervigilance mode. And this is my wounding. This is my pattern that like, and I hear this feedback from my team. And like some of my medicine is that I also heard this from my co-facilitator where she's like, Emily, like you'll ask me to do something and then you'll just do it. And I hear this from my team of like, Emily, you just assigned that to me and then you just did it. So there's this part where when I get triggered, instead of leaving any spaciousness, I have this story of like, well, I can just do it better and faster and I'll just do it all myself. And so I go into this hyper driven, hyper doing, hyper masculine. I don't trust anyone to do anything else. I'll just do it all myself. And then I get mad that no one's holding me and that no one can support me. So like, yeah, this got really, really highlighted.
Yeah. It's like very like, help me, you can't.
Say it again.
It's very like, help me, you can't.
I need your help, but you can't help me. Like push.
Exactly.
Pull.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what was being highlighted for
Mm-hmm.
deletion
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Yeah. Big time.
In that, in that lead up. Now, I do want you to talk about what happened that night and some of the magic that transpired, because as difficult as things were becoming for you, it was beyond magical and it was like one of the best nights of my life. So can you talk about like the external, internal, because this is looping back to Nephthys, Isis, right? Like there's what is seen and there's what is unseen. And I know those weren't always a matched experience for you, but can you just talk about that night and part of the magic and what was going on?
Yeah. So it's like, it's this, I feel this razor's edge between like, oh my God, like, it just makes me want to cry because I'm so proud of what we did. And I'm so proud that we actually fucking did it. And I've had this vision and I've had this dream for so long. And I haven't understood it and it didn't make any sense. But it was like, there's something about the pyramids and you need to bring people there and you need to hold a vision for peace and you need to hold a vision for what heaven on earth looks like and you need to pour pleasure over it. And it's like, but this is a Muslim country and the pyramids are distorted and like, what? And so like, that's what I said, one of the points of this trip was to do this. And so I like hired these guys to find me like a private rooftop overlooking the pyramids. And so we were going to do it at sunset. It's like perfect. It'll be golden hour overlooking the pyramids. And so like after we've got like a pretty intense, like traumatic situation happening, I'm on the phone for 2 hours trying to find like trauma informed therapists in Cairo to come and support, to hold the container. And I did it. Like that was one way that I felt Isis's wings around us, where it was like, I found a trauma-informed facilitator who had done Ziva, who was supposed to be on this trip, who happened to like help people integrate after ceremonies, who lived 5 minutes from our hotel. And I'm like interviewing her and telling her the situation. And then she shows up at the hotel, like right when we land. And I was like, thank you. So that was really a miracle. And by the way, that woman is like still hard at work, like helping some of these people in a way that like there has been healing and miracles, the likes of which I've never seen before. So like, just know this story is having a happy ending and does have a happy ending. And like, it wasn't always guaranteed. Like it felt like things were kind of touch and go. So anyway, we land in Cairo, put our stuff down. It's, by the way, one of my favorite hotels on the planet. And we get there and I hate my room. I hate this place. They can't shake us in. It smells like cigarette smoke. My room is gross. I'm just like, how did like my heaven turn into hell? Like, and I'm like, everyone's just like tired and gross and crunchy. And now I'm like, wait, now from this space of like vigilance and fear and trauma and holding, I'm supposed to go and do like what I think is my planetary dharma. And so I like drop my stuff, change my clothes, go to this very private. And I was like, you understand that we want to do a ceremony with 60 white people touching themselves. We need privacy. And by then everyone was not white. I'm saying, what I should say is what we need.
We were wearing white.
We were wearing white, but it was 60 Westerners touching themselves in a Muslim country. So I'm just very aware of the cultural sensitivities. We want to be respectful. So I show up and like, it's hot. It's a restaurant. There's tables everywhere. There's no DJ booth. There's chairs. There's cigarette butts, trash cans, and full glass walls on every side of the rooftop with tables and chairs less than 5 feet away. So like the least private location, children in a hot tub 100 feet away, 3 other DJ booths playing simultaneously, but a great view of the pyramids. So I'm like, okay. I guess we're going to pull an audible. And I'm like, we're not going to not do this, but we're going to adapt. We're going to do this in a way that is safe. So immediately start like moving tables, moving chairs, getting the DJ, setting up the booth, moving the trash cans, setting up the yoga mats. By the way, they've not bought any yoga mats. So they're going out there, get prayer mats. So like the Muslim prayer mats, they go and buy like 60 of those. DJ booth gets set up, sun's starting to set. Then like the whole group like can't find the place.
Yeah, the bus that picked us up took us to the wrong hotel.
Cool.
Which was amazing, at which point I called you.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
And then it was like, no problem. The right hotel is actually not that far away. So hilariously, we were all walking through like this very intense area of Cairo, all wearing white, holding beach towels. It's like through traffic and motorbikes and trash and chaos. And like, it was a spectacle.
Like having just come in our little nested cocoon of like a temple on the Nile.
Yeah,
like,
it was again, a lot of contrast.
Contrast. And so then everyone gets there and I'm like, and I'm telling, like, my friends are showing up. So we're merging with another crew, which involves like 5 of my best friends who are like extraordinarily like world-class, powerful priests and priestesses. And we had emailed out to 100,000 people, like, please send us your prayers for the planet. And we printed it out in like 0.1 font. And we had like thousands and thousands of prayers printed. And we built a whole altar around these prayers. And then we do this ceremony and oh, by the way, there was like no cords for my phone. So like participants are like breaking into my room to get my laptop and the charger. It felt like a real spy mission. And like this part, like as chaotic and as crazy as it was, like that to me was like the caper that we were all signing up for, where it's like logistical challenges and weird judgment about our pleasure from the cultures. And like all of that felt like chaotic, but fun, you know? And then by the end, like we fucking did it. Like we did that ceremony. We did it in a way that was respectful. We didn't use any scary words. I don't think we took it too far. And yes, it was awkward. And yes, it was uncomfortable to have people watching us that didn't really understand. But it felt like by the end of it, that our field of love and our field of prayer got so big that it started to encapsulate and invite in everyone that was watching. And it felt like it started to alchemize the judgment into awe. And it felt like it started to alchemize some of the fear into wonder. And by the end, it really felt like we had made this expanded, coherent field and that we had tapped into the magic and the antenna of these pyramids. And then the sunset happened. The colors were just like beautiful purples and pinks. And then as someone came up to me and was just like, Emily, like you did it. Like you did it. And I was like, thank you for the reminder. Like we just did that. And I just start sobbing, crying, and everyone comes around me and we're just dancing and hugging and jumping up and down. And then we went around the prayers and we read some of them out and just held up people's prayers. And then the lights turned on the pyramids, which doesn't happen every night. So they're like purple and pink and white. And that felt like actual magic. And the moon is rising and the stars are rising. And it was just like, whoa. This is it. Like we did it. We could leave tomorrow and it would be worth it.
100%. And it was all those things that you're talking about are so always when there's an expansion, there's a commensurate contraction. Mm-hmm. Always, 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 always. So again, when we were talking about like, oh, as soon as something starts to feel uncomfortable, we can go into that victim, perpetrator, hero triangle. Mm-hmm. Same when we're going for expansion, often the opposite comes up for like, ooh, are you sure? Like, let me create some friction along your path. Right. And so it was so perfect that you had this vision for this tremendous expansive ceremony, which did end up occurring. Mm-hmm. And I want folks to really hear that along the way, as you didn't have the setup that you envisioned, as there was no privacy. So you changed the ceremony to be respectful and it was beautiful and literal perfection. And you didn't have the cords and the this and the right. Most people would say, oh, this isn't meant to happen. There's too many obstacles, right? And you did not. You let it be friction, which actually creates pleasure, instead of making it like, oh, there's something wrong here. And I want to highlight how important that is, because for every single person listening, there's something that they're here to expand, to amplify. And there will be obstacles, and obstacles are not a sign that you're off track. Oftentimes obstacles are a sign that you are on track.
Yeah. And actually our mutual friend and teacher, Regina Thomasschauer, we used to do these things called courtesan chambers, and it would be this like night dedicated to pleasure. And inevitably when we would have a lot of resistance and we'd be like, man, the violin is canceled and we can't find a venue. She'd be like, well, this is going to be a really good one, because anytime you're moving towards pleasure, there's going to be obstacles.
Yes. And again, like Isis Nephthys, right? There they are again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
So
light
it's
and the dark.
the light and the dark. Okay. So there are a million other places that we can go. And I just want to check in with you on time. Are you?
I have like another 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Great.
Are
So
you good?
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good for sure. For sure. Okay, Emily. We were talking on the phone, or maybe you were voice memoing me. I don't remember. And you were, this is after we got back from the trip. And you were like, whoa, there's all these black birds. They're just like, there's so many blackbirds and they're flying together and it's so beautiful. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And we talked about,
by the way, every single time, maybe not every single time, but like 80% of the like magic moments where I was like having a like, oh my God, we're communing with the divine. It would be a swarm of blackbirds that would come by in the temple, outside, in the window. Like it happened so much on the trip.
Okay. Because that's an international sign. I love that. So you do not have to be in Katona, New York for the blackbird explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were talking about murmuration, and murmuration is the way in which flocks of birds move together and really make tremendous progress without any exact leader. And it's like, we don't exactly know how they're letting everyone know. And they create these gorgeous patterns in the sky and they switch turns. It's like group leadership. And I'm curious if you can talk about the King's Chamber and the ceremony we did in there, if you care to, and also some of the other elements in the way you led the trip and the way you're reflecting on it now that are connected to that concept of new models of leadership as symbolized by the blackbirds and their murmuration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it feels like the old school role of leader is like, it's a bit more like patriarchal. It's a bit more like monotheistic, that there's like one God judging people as good or bad, right or wrong. And then we're like good or bad followers. And then we either go to heaven or hell. We either get the Christmas presents or don't because Santa Claus judges us.
Jesus, aka Santa Claus.
Jesus, aka God, aka Santa Claus judges us. Are we naughty or nice? It's like, it's really built in early on. And it feels like that's just really deeply not it. It's why I'm so interested in many of these ancient pantheons, because it's like, well, if you have, Artemis and Hanuman and Isis and Zeus and like Greek, like all the pantheons, that it's like all these different fractals of the divine. And then I think that the more archetypes of divinity you have externally, the more fractals of divinity you can see inside of yourself. And I'm interested, like, as there's been this rise in IFS, internal family systems, where you're seeing, oh, there's a part of me that's jealous. There's a part of me that's sad. There's a part of me that's proud. It's all me, but it's all also welcome and holy. I'm really interested in this intersection of IFS and like what we would call polytheism, but I don't really love that term polytheism, because to me, it's not worshiping many gods. It's rather like we have these multiple expressions of the divinity, which is all meant to point back to us.
And that was so clear in the historical teachings we received on this pilgrimage from Karim and
Isis and Matthias de Stefano.
And what is Karim's wife name?
Oh, Krista.
And Krista. Yeah. I mean, it was so clear. Like, these are fractals of the divine. The ancient Egyptians were not worshiping multiple gods. They were worshiping and honoring different facets of the divine.
Okay. Thank you for saying that, because that might be the clue I was looking for. Because that to me is what I love about the Vedas, that all of the gods and goddesses are representations of the one thing, that the core foundation of the Vedas is that there's only one thing and we're all it. And that one thing is consciousness. And so Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva are just anthropomorphizations of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And the only reason we make them human is so that we can understand the teachings like fairy tales. And so so thank you for saying that, because that might be the thing. And also what links us into Greece, right? That the Greek gods and goddesses are also just representations of the divinity inside of us. And what I loved so much about some of our preparatory teaching was from Matthias de Stefano, where he said that temple, the word temple, originally means a clearing in the trees where you can see the stars. And the stars are meant to remind us that we're all made up of the same stuff, that we're literally made up of the same atoms and matter and gas and elements of the stars. And so and this is the Hermetic teachings, right? And by the way, it's called a Hermes, but Hermes is just the Greek interpretation of Thoth. And Thoth is the Egyptian god. And so it's just a beautiful tapestry weaving itself right now in real time. And what was the question? Oh, murmuration.
Yeah, murmuration, but that was great and actually completely related, because I think murmuration is the biological or the like natural metaphor for exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. And so this is, by the way, like so fresh. Like I'm violating my rule here, which is normally to teach from the scar and not teach from the wound. And I'm currently still in the wound. Like I'm still in the learning. I'm still very much in the trigger and the upset and in my own medicine.
Do you want to pass on this question?
A caveat there? No, I like it. I just want to name that I will likely have more insight as I get further from it. But it still feels true that part of my medicine, and by the way, alchemy, as Matthias de Stefano described it, is that alchemy is like you become the tuning fork. And that in order to have a tuning fork, one side of the tuning fork is your own poison. And then you alchemize that into being your own medicine. And so part of my own poison, my own trauma, my own patterns that I get to transcend, that I get to alchemize into medicine is this holding, is this like, I have to do it all myself. There's a crisis. I'm not safe. You're not safe. No one's safe. Let me do everything myself. That I get to transcend this into this idea of murmuration, into the collective is smarter than me. I can be held. I am safe. We are safe. People are having big experiences, and we can trust the collective. We can trust nature. We can trust people, to have their ride, even if it's uncomfortable, and even if they don't like the ride, and even if they don't like you.
Yeah, because when we went to the temples and we heard the history and these stories from Kareem and Krista, are absolutely glorious guides.
One of which, Krista, is an ordained priestess in the Avalon tradition, and also like has Egyptian history. Like what?
These two are so beyond heavenly. What we heard were many stories in which the fractals of the divine, as these gods and goddesses, were wreaking havoc, were having experiences that made them and their fellow divine beings deeply uncomfortable. It is not stories of perpetual love and light. They're gnarly. Like they're really gnarly stories.
Going to a pit of snakes in the bottom of the pyramids, going through
like
crocodile
Osiris
pits,
being completely dismembered and chopped up to, into all these different pieces,
losing malice.
Yeah, it's really like it's like a whole thing. And so just to know, again, we're back on theme. Just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it isn't right. And, your mission really is to bring heaven to earth. And the pickup on that is not available unless we are willing to go to the depths. Mm-hmm. That is not available without Isis and Nephthys, light and shadow. There is no light without shadow. And something Kareem was telling us at the Isis temple at Philae on the first day was, if we taste sweet all the time, we lose our sense of taste and we don't know what it is anymore. Mm-hmm. So without the opposite, nothing is sweet. Contrast is really like the aliveness.
Yes. And what's been so sweet for me is that as people have like voiced their grievances or voiced their upset or projected things onto me, and I made space to just like, hey, can you give that, like, let's have a call, give that part the microphone, like, let me hear it. Let me hear what's coming up for you, so that I could help discern for myself, okay, like what here is something I need to repair and what is projection. And it's so easy to see when it's someone else, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, guess what? That prayer that you had coming into this is exactly that. You're exactly getting that medicine. And then as you see it in other people, it starts to become easier to see for yourself. And other people have been holding space for me to be like, hey, Emily, that prayer that you had? This is exactly that medicine. And 100%. So it's a beautiful like fractal of unfolding, of letting the alchemy happen, of letting the poison be transformed into medicine.
We could literally talk for 3 more hours at least. Mm-hmm. 3 more days, 3 more weeks, 3 more years.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, as we land this ship, what do you feel like you want people to know now, perhaps for their own transformation, for their own consideration of joining you on future Ziva pilgrimages and the next steps of what Ziva is becoming?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you were to just end the question as what I want people to know, it feels like that the lesson that's coming through right now, and I even wrote this. Well, the thing I wrote in my plane on the way over was so simple, but pretty profound, and ended up being the theme of the trip, was love everyone, especially yourself. Mm-hmm. Meaning like love yourself first. And that was a lot of the medicine for the people that had the big journeys, was like, I'm taking care of everyone else instead of myself. And now I've been noticing myself in that pattern. Well, let me make sure they're safe and they're safe and they're safe and they're safe. And once they're all safe, then I'll take care of myself. Then I'll regulate my nervous system. And when you are the one holding the beacon, it's like, it does not work that way. Like you have to regulate yourself first. And so I'm learning that in real time. And so I guess what I would say to someone that wants to join me on a next pilgrimage is like, boy, have I learned a lot. And our next one's not Egypt. Egypt is its very specific flavor of medicine. It is like ayahuasca mixed with DMT times a lot. And it's intense medicine. And I don't know, but Greece is different. Like the place where we're going is the number 5 spa on the planet. It was built by a woman. It was funded by a woman. We're going to Delphi, which is like the umbilical cord of the planet. It's where the oracles were there. And so if I don't know what's in store, but it feels to me like a bit more gentle, luxurious medicine, still a pilgrimage. I'm sure there will be lessons. I'm sure there will be triggers. But it feels like it's going to be less intense. Like it's not 10 days. It's not so much moving. It's not so many temples. And my intention is I actually want to spend more time teaching. That I wanted to go to Egypt for myself as a pilgrimage. Yes. This one, I feel like I actually want to spend more time teaching from the Vedas, weaving these techniques together, doing advanced practices, teaching, mastering the cities. So I'm actually excited to just firmly sit my ass in the teacher role and have lots of support around that, and a lot of sauna, cold plunge, massage, and luxury.
So incredible, Emily. And I really want to take this moment to acknowledge the bravery and the courage it took to say yes to this call. And then to it, not only because like if you would have gone by yourself, it would have been profound and extraordinary, but then to also amplify that times 40 by bringing these other humans with you, and the way you are leading in your own process, even though it's fresh, but really looking at what is being highlighted for deletion as I create heaven on earth in my own life and as I guide humans. And modern leadership does not require any level of perfection. It requires humanity. It requires vulnerability. It requires, learning in real time, sometimes in public. And it really is the medicine that we need right now. And so I just want to acknowledge you for being that medicine and for inviting this transformation for so many of us, because it really was one of the biggest things I've ever been part of.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying like modern leadership does not require perfection, because that feels like, oof, Emily, you don't have to be perfect for people to love you, and you don't have to be perfect to be a leader. And I think part of it is like being willing to own your shit, learn in real time, and to keep healing, keep getting better, whatever that means.
Yeah, just keep opening.
And Kate, I see you doing that in real time. Like you're such a motivation for me. And at some point, maybe we'll do a part 2. I'll interview you. You can tell me about your trip. And because I know there was some big learnings for you and your work, and it feels like a bigger conversation than to open right now. But I love you. And thank you for going on this trip. Thank you for taking the time to help me process and integrate, and for us to share these learnings with people in real time. Friends, I hope that you enjoyed our tales and our stories here. And if you want to learn about like what this Ziva level 3 is about, and our next pilgrimage is going to be in Greece in mid-April, you can check out everything at zivameditation.com. You can check out Kate at katenorthrup.com. If you loved a story or a learning, you can screenshot this and post it on Instagram. You can tag me at Ziva Meditation. Kate is at Kate Northrup. And anything else you want people to know?
No.
Okay.
I love you. And I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
And this is such an honor.
I love you too. Sweet friends, I love you too. Thank you for being on this ride. We love you. And we'll see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?